hate Peter Pan!
The Hand of Glory, a form of necromancer witchcraft used by the demonic perpetrators of MkUltra mind control, and the hidden secret symbolism of Michael's glove. It's your boy, Big Unk Unplug'em, dropping new gems on ya, reviewing classic ideas and breaking them down in the way that helps you overstand the world today. All praise to the Most High, in the mighty matchless name of King Jesus.
From www.bibliocaplades.net. Seeing what is known to practitioners of satanic arts as a hand of glory, a severed left hand as was suggested by the hook on Captain Hook in Disney's adaptation, will induct people who are predisposed to being highly suggestible to subliminal cues into Peter Pan programming. Books describing the occult use of the Hand of Glory in Ireland go back to the year 1830. It is an ancient practice. Baring Good's book, Curious Myths of the Middle Ages, describes the recipe for using the Hand of Glory as a gruesome lantern during the witchcraft of the Middle Ages. Tinkerbell programming, the Never Grow Up / alien fantasy programming, arrested development spirit and spirits of immaturity, fantasy lust, resignation from life. Captain or forms of the word captain represent the programmer in Peter Pan programming. Tinkerbell is a young alter created under Peter Pan programming. Trans-dimensional travel right from your own backyard. The dimensions of your pyramid are to be 9 by 9 by 9 by. Alien programming by NWO also involves Peter Pan programming. Ride the light, Peter Pan programming, meaning to go into hypnotic induction attached to a light that is seen when given a high voltage shock. This is given to make experiences seem like in another dimension. This next excerpt is from Transformation of America by Cathy O'Brien. I soon learned that everyone associated with Grammy Award-nominated singer of the 1966 hit song There Goes My Everything country music star Jack Green was involved in his CIA Freedom Train operations. When I told Green that my friend and I would not be returning on Friday night due to attending the Grand Ole Opry, he told us that he would be working the Opry that night. He made arrangements for us to come backstage and see him immediately following his segment. He explained that the security guard at the Opry, Nashville Metro Police Lieutenant Bob Ezel, was a good friend of his and would let us in. At the Opry, my friend and I sat in the audience watching as Jack Green introduced his special guest, United States Senator Robert C. Byrd. At the sight of Byrd, I went into a preconditioned deep trance and robotically went through the motions of following Green's instructions. Once backstage, Green pointed out his dressing room, which he was sharing with Senator Byrd, and ordered me in. The personality that had been sitting in the audience had perceived Byrd as an entertainer and could not or would not think further. But as I walked into the dressing room and saw Byrd perched on the edge of the mirrored vanity in his boxer shorts, I switched into the child personality that had known him as a U.S. Senator on Mackinac Island since age 13 and responded sexually. Afterward, Byrd was claiming me as his, excitedly telling me that he had always wanted his own little witch. I soon learned the enormity of this statement. Jack Green's band member, Wayne Cox, later told me that playing music behind Senator Byrd at the Opry was not the only way he backed him. He also backed him politically and in Freedom Train operations. Cox then made arrangements for my friend and me to stay the remainder of our trip at his trailer in Hendersonville, Tennessee. There was no choice but to comply. The following night, after Jack Green completed his show at the Black Poodle, he drove my friend and me to a nearby participating after-hours club, the Demon's Den. There, Cox was to pick us up and take us to Hendersonville. Instead, we were slipped a drug and taken on a tour of Union Station, Nashville's then abandoned train station, where supposedly the only train still running through there was the Freedom Train. Senator Roberts' attempted cultivation of superstition through my Catholic schooling should have maximized the impact of the occult ritual I was subjected to in the tower of the old stone and slate turn-of-the-century train depot. But the pain and horror was sufficiently effective in itself, even without my adhering to superstition to produce the intended mind-shattering results. Wayne Cox took my friend and me on a flashlight tour through the rubble of Union Station, until we came to a homeless man sleeping on the ground. Cox ordered me to kiss the railroad bum goodbye, then shot him between the eyes while I was still only inches away. He then used a machete to chop off the man's hands, which he put in a Ziploc bag. He then led us up the rickety stairs into the lower of the old depot. There Jack Green, his band members, and others dressed in black robes were gathered around a black leather altar in a room lit by candles and draped in red velvet. In total shock, I was laid on the altar and subjected to rape and torture while the participants indulged in sex, blood, and cannibalism ritual. The next day I woke up on Cox's couch, vaguely aware that I had suffered a bad nightmare. When I stood up, I passed out from blood loss. I was bleeding profusely from the vagina. It was all I could do to prepare to drive back to Michigan, and my friend was certainly not in a stable frame of mind to help. I did not know what happened to me, nor was I able to question it. I had a new obsession on my mind. I had been programmed at the ritual to move to Nashville and marry Cox, as ordered by Senator Byrd. Back in Michigan, I made the announcement to my parents that I was moving to Nashville to marry Cox, as it was predestination. What they would not tell me was that my father had just literally sold me to Senator Byrd in exchange for lucrative military contracts that made him a millionaire overnight. A millionaire on a 6th grade education. A perverse child. Exploiting criminal, immune from prosecution, working as a CIA operative for the U.S. government. That mind-blowing occult ritual I endured in Nashville marked a new life of wealth and prestige for my father while thrusting me into a new phase of my torturous existence, and I had no choice in any of it. Chapter 5. Tinkering with the Mind. It was 1977. I was a 19-year-old mind-controlled programmed slave in the CIA/DIA Project Monarch Freedom Train operation, literally owned by U.S. Senate Majority Leader Robert C. Byrd, who was then a 20-year incumbent and on the Senate Appropriations Committee as Byrd's own little witch sex slave. I would also become involved in covert government operations. I now understand that this required more memory compartments/personalities than I had developed. Hence one more reason for the mind-shattering occult ritual and my predestined marriage to Cox. In typical Project Monarch structure, Byrd was my owner and in control of my life, while Cox became my primary handler and followed Byrd's orders to ensure that I was at key locations and events at appointed times and to maintain me under mind control. Cox reportedly was not paid cash for his role like my father was. Instead, he either followed orders or would be prosecuted for distributing drugs and being the occult serial killer that he was and is to date. Cox's primary role was to shatter my mind further through repeated occult trauma, as well as father my daughter, Kelly, to be raised in the genetic mind control studies of Project Monarch. I moved to Nashville as ordered to marry Cox, who took me to the backwoods of his hometown swamp in Chatham, Louisiana for months at a time for occult traumatization. Cox had been brought up in witchcraft by his mother, and admittedly longed for her sexually and ritually. Together, they subjected me to their beliefs, which included what equates to a weakened version of mind control used by witches for centuries, anchored in superstition rather than scientific fact. These superstitious beliefs seemingly conflicted with Cox's mercenary training to the point that his killing raged out of control. For example, Cox would murder a human through repeated stabbing with a knife, believing that the departing spirit and splattered blood gave him power to control my mind. In truth, it was my aversion and subsequent traumatization by the event that caused me to dissociate and trance, leaving my subconscious open to his suggestions and those of others. During the 3 years I was with Cox, he ritually impregnated and aborted me 6 times, consuming several of his own offspring and preserving the others shaped in ceramic for sale in his interstate occult body parts business. Cox's modus operandi for murdering always included removing the hands with a machete, as the hands of glory he kiln-dried in the ceramic shop of his and his mother's house were in demand and thus distributed throughout throughout the occult underground supply network. Cox's protected cocaine and body parts distribution routes included Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Florida. Way before the new Wednesday Netflix series that is now getting massive attention following the success of the Dahmer series, there was already a strange fascination with the Wednesday character. It's a thing. There seems to be an unhealthy internet trend of young people reimagining and then lusting thirstily after modified, over-sexualized versions of what were once thought by the masses to have been innocent cartoon, comic book, and video game characters. This is partially because of having been exposed to so much information about the not-so-wholesome natures of the cartoons and television shows that American households grew up on and were conditioned to love. The most obvious reason is the popularity and variety of pornographic stimuli that today's children are bombarded with. Both are true and results of long-term planned programming. I've never looked up an actress and seen so many pictures of her as a child star, also posted alongside not just adult movie poster pictures, but their actual costume-fitting pictures from their audition from when they were a little girl. This tells me that although I didn't know, the internet certainly knew that cosplay and fantasy lust groups, as well as pedo perps, have a thing for Wednesday Addams. And yeah, it's pretty sick. Netflix gets yet another, well-deserved nasty award for that one. The programming here is simple and in line with prior inappropriate Netflix offerings like Dahmer and Cuties, keeping in line with the theme of the mass mind control programming that the New World Order news media keep conditioning us with: rebellion, murder. And as always, they are incrementally relaxing our attitudes towards sexuality so that they can have their Atlantis, their new Rome or modern Egypt and Greece, complete with sex slaves of any age, without the need for parental consent or covert operations. Like the devils that inspire and empower them, they no longer want to hide their perversions in the shadows, so they are speedily promoting shows that walk and sometimes cross the lines. If they do it enough times, they figure that like the other envelopes they have pushed, they'll get the public on board with their pedo wave, slowly but surely, especially when they convince the masses that these network programs are the bomb. If only they knew. The new Wednesday series focuses on her adventures at school away from home, and her worried parents have sent the severed hand thing to keep a proverbial eye on her. It is necessary to note here that the hand of glory used in witchcraft is also depicted with an eye in its palm. And the severed hand thing is secretly sent to watch and spy on her, and then to deliver his findings back to her parents. About Lisa Loring, the child actress who played the original Addams Family daughter, Wednesday. Now her parents both served in the United States Navy, but divorced shortly after her birth. You know how mind control and ritual abuse recruits are sometimes pulled from amongst military men who either volunteer their children for these programs or are fooled into believing that they have a, quote, special opportunity to allow their child into a special, secret military enhancement program. The same tactic was used by the Nazi regime when trying to get troops to volunteer their offspring for Hitler's experiments. But I digress. Lisa Loring was born in Kwajalein, Marshall Islands, a United Nations Trust territory at the time, which had been administered by the United States. Lisa grew up in Hawaii and later moved to Los Angeles with her mother. Lisa began modeling at age 3 and appeared in an episode of Dr. Kildare, which aired in 1964. Her mother died of alcoholism in 1974 at age 34. She is best known for her role as Wednesday Addams in the Addams Family sitcom, 1964 through 1966, which was a year revered by Satanists. By the way, they probably partied in celebration of the spirits that they broadcast for the 2 years that they were on the air, and gave it a great going-away party. 2. You mean to say an old black and white TV show that only lasted 2 years gets constantly remade and remarketed via big-budget films, CGI cartoons, and now a Netflix special? Yep. It's giving mind control vibes. Chuji. Lisa Loring joined the cast of ABC's sitcom The Pruits of Southampton in 1966. After her childhood career, she also was a cast member of the CBS soap opera As the World Turns from 1980 to 83, where she created the role of Cricket Montgomery. Loring married her childhood sweetheart Farrell Founberg in 1973 when she was 15 and had a daughter. The marriage ended a year later. Loring married her second husband, actor Doug Stevenson, in 1981. He was a contract performer on another CBS/Procter & Gamble soap opera Search for Tomorrow. Loring had a second daughter with Stevenson, and their marriage ended in 1983. In 1987, Loring married adult film actor Jerry Butler. They met on the set of the 1987 adult film Tracy's Big Trick, on which Loring worked as a makeup artist and uncredited writer. In the ensuing years of their marriage, she voiced her dissatisfaction with Butler's continued involvement in pornography, and eventually Butler began secretly participating in porn shoots without her knowledge. In an interview with Dateline NBC in the 1990s, Butler described himself as addicted to the lifestyle, ashamed of his clandestine behavior and its effect on his marriage. The couple later appeared on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, again discussing the damage Butler's porn career was causing to their marriage. Butler and Loring divorced in 1992, which was also the year he began to exit the hardcore industry. The sad truth is that many of the aspiring actresses and actors who exit the countless planes, trains, and automobiles coming to Hollywood don't actually make it. Most end up in low-end jobs, community poorhouses, on the streets, or trapped in the sex trade. In places where there is such a huge gap between the haves and the have-nots, it's common to find a busy red light district, a bustling black market, and a wide range of underground sex workers to satisfy the kinks and perversions of the wealthy and privileged. It is also a place where you can find many of these powerful men engaged heavily in the occult behind closed doors. That's not by chance. Many who come to Hollywood are bedazzled by tales and myths of ways to capture an audience and keep them spellbound by little-known means. These trade secrets are kept among the most powerful, the insiders, and they charge a hefty tuition to the curious artist who desires to be a student of the craft in hopes that they too can benefit from the power of the secret knowledge. It is a magic used to captivate women and children and drive men to envy. The greatest entertainers know that this secret power is the true way to gain power and success in the devil's world. He needs the human vessel and God-given talent that only the blessed possess. And on that foundation, he can give a man the magic to transform himself into a legend, a star of epic and mythical magnitude.